Hello chess friends and welcome to Jozarov chess channel and welcome back to the Sinquefield Cup in 2022. So we're following now the derby of the round 8, which is now the beautiful game between Alireza Firouzja and Wesley So. So before this round 8, the situation was really clear. Wesley So was in the lead. He had half of the points more than Alireza Firouzja, Jan Nepomuceno and Fabiano Caruana, but half of the points is not enough, I think, because if you lose one more game, then the situation can really change dramatically. So I think before this round 8, Wesley So would be really comfortable maybe with the draw against Alireza Firouzja with the black pieces, and then in the last round he would have again the white pieces. So it was now, I think, really important for Wesley maybe to just play one draw, and he will keep, I think, his lead in this tournament. So let's see now what happened. In my opinion, it was now really one of the most critical moments of this super event of the Sinquefield Cup in 2022. So let's see now the beautiful game. So e4 was played by Alireza Firouzja. We have e5 by Wesley So, knight to f3, knight to c6, bishop to c4, bishop to c5. We have now the Giuoco piano. The Italian game is on the board. So we have now d3, Giuoco pianissimo. We have now this classical setup, knight to f6, kingside castling, and now d6 here. Wesley So played this beautiful symmetrical variation. This is now pretty standard stuff. Both players have, I think, beautiful activities with their bishops here on this diagonals, and also the bishops are threatening here maybe to play some annoying spins like bishop to g5 or maybe here bishop to g4. So in the continuation, c3. This is now the normal idea of the Italian game. The idea is clear. We want to play b4, queenside expansion, or maybe here the potential central breakthrough with the d4 move. So in the continuation, we have now kingside castling, h3, prophylactic idea here by Alireza Firouzja, because he's not allowing some pinning ideas. He's not allowing to get this bishop to g4 annoying move because the knight is controlling the d4 square, and now still we want to prepare this d4 move further. So in the continuation, h6, so Wesley So is doing the same. He's not also allowing here Alireza Firouzja him to get pinned here with the move bishop to g5. So rook to e1. So now Alireza is protecting finally the e4 pawn, is threatening now to play some ideas of d4. So we have now a6. So this move creates some breathing spaces for the dark square bishop. So if you get challenged maybe with the move d4, then you still have a beautiful activity here on this long diagonal. You will keep your bishop on this very nice diagonal, but it's not only a move that allows you to escape with the bishop. It's also preparing maybe here a sort of an expansion with the move b5 and get an extra tempo against the bishop on c4. So we have now a4 here by Alireza Firouzja. He's not allowing this b5 moves here by Wesley So. And now an interesting idea by Wesley, and I think from this point on we see maybe here sort of a home preparation by Wesley So, because in the beginning, I think, of the game, Wesley really outplayed Alireza in the Italian game. Look at this, how Wesley played beautifully this opening this beautiful Italian game. So he's playing now a5. It's really weird to see maybe the same pawn move twice in the openings. You see now a6 and then a5, but actually a5 is really brilliant because you're not allowing here this move b4. So far the situation, I think, on the queen side is solved. Nothing dramatic can happen now on the queen side. Of course, d4 is still an opportunity, but we'll just step back to b6 or a7 and we'll wait what will happen in the center of the board. So here, good move really by Wesley So. At least I think it's an interesting idea in the Italian game. So we have knight from b to d2. I liked also Alireza's choice. He didn't rush into this d4 breakthrough idea. He just improved first his pieces. He included now more pieces into the game, and then he's waiting now, of course, to play then the move d4. We have bishop to e6, pretty standard idea of the Italian game. If you take, of course, then f takes e6 supports simply the d5 breakthrough goal here of black. Black wants to also maybe create a pawn storm now also in the center of the board. So that's why b3 was played by Alireza. He kept also the tension between the light square bishops, and we have now rook to e8. You don't want to take, of course, bishop to c4. Now knight to c4 is an opportunity, but I think even b takes c4 is much better, because we can still play rook to b1, attacking the weak pawn on b7. And I think in the near future we can play some ideas of knight to b3 d4 is also interesting, or knight to f1 knight to e3, or knight to f1 knight to g3, then followed with knight to f5 ideas, maybe still with d4 breakthrough ideas and similar stuff. So taking the bishop on c4 is also not, I think, a good choice here for black. So that's why Wesley kept the tension also between the bishops, so no one wants to touch anything between these bishops, is waiting just his opponent to take out finally the light square bishop off the board. So in the continuation, after move rook to e8, we have bishop to b2 by Alireza. We have now d5, and this is now an interesting choice by Wesley So, but pay good attention how Wesley is well prepared in the Italian game. I think he has this line somewhere prepared, because this is now a theoretical novelty by Wesley. He's breaking in the center immediately with the move d5. The problem about this move d5, okay, you get some tensions now in the center of the board, but the e5 is a little bit loose, and here Alireza sent some blood. Bishop to b5 he played, of course, attacking the knight that is protecting now the pawn on e5, but I think, again, I'm pointing out, he fell into some really beautiful ideas by Wesley So, because now after move d takes e4, here Alireza made the first mistake in the game. He took now this pawn on e4 with the pawn on with the d pawn, and that's exactly a huge mistake in this opening, in the opening stage. And I think again, I'm pointing out, sorry if I'm repeating myself, but I really think that Wesley outplayed already here Alireza Firouzja, because the only way to get out of this mess, you see now why d takes e4 is a mistake. But let's see now what happens if you play knight to e4. Knight takes e4 comes now with at least a threat against the bishop on c5. Now after move knight takes e4, you cannot take again with the pawn, because look at this, queen to d1, rook to d1, and now you lose the pawn on b3. The b3 pawn was a little bit loose, the queen was overloaded on the square b1. So after the trades of queens, look at this, black is gaining a pawn, and this is now, I think, a much better position here for black. So that's why you cannot take out here after knight to e4, you cannot take with the knight, you have to take out with the rook. And now the game becomes a little bit complicated. After move bishop to d5, the rook gets attacked, but now we can take bishop to c6, we're attacking also the rook. So now maybe after something like b takes c6, now we can take rook takes e5, rook takes e5, knight takes e5. Okay, in this scenario, white gained the pawn, but now the queen comes very actively into the game. Look at this, the bishop is very dangerous by black, but still it's an equal position, because a knight to f3 will happen, bishop to f3, queen to f3, and now after move queen to d2, the game leads into drawish line, because now look at this, bishop queen to c6 is going to happen, double attack against the bishop and the rook. Also this bishop is hanging, but the engine gives here equal chances for both sides. So as I said, knight takes e4 was the correct move by Alireza Firouzja, although the game is still complicated. But after move d takes e4, the problem is now here Wesley played the correct move, knight to h5, and from this point on black is much better, because usually knight to h5 would be very risky because of this tactic, knight takes e5, and then the knight is hanging, so you could grab a pawn maybe. But actually after knight takes e5, queen to h5 is not working, because again the queen is a little bit overloaded. We have seen the queen was overloaded because the queen had to protect always the pawn on b3, but now look at this, the knight is hanging also on d2, and this is simply game over now for white. So this usual tactical shot, knight takes e5, is not working. I'm saying usual because many times if the knight is getting to h5, then you should not forget about this potential discovered sort of move, and then you grab a pawn. But in this lines it's not working, and here, as I said, I think after move knight to h5 here, Wesley So is taking over, because Alireza probably calculated, okay, he played now knight to c4, and he's saying, what's the problem about this line? I will take out your knight on c6, and I will take out your pawn on e5. There's no defense against this, but actually Wesley So has a beautiful preparation here. He played a beautiful queen to f6, and here Wesley played really wild dynamic game, because okay, Alireza took bishop takes c6, we have b takes c6, but now after move knight takes e5, the problem is now the beautiful tactical shot that Wesley saw here. He played bishop to h3. The problem is now, you see, okay, you took the pawn on e5 here from white's perspective, so white took the centralized pawn, but now black took also a very important defender in front of the king, and basically this game is almost over here, because if you play now the game correctly from black's perspective, I think white is simply lost, because if you take now, let's see, g takes h3, the problem is now you get a beautiful tactical shot, rook takes e5. You cannot take knight takes e5 because you get queen to f2, king to h1, knight to g3 leads into a checkmate sequence, which is really wild already. So almost you get checkmated in an early stage of the game. So if the game would be played like this, then you would get checkmate in move 20. But after move bishop to h3, Alireza realized his problems around the square e5, so that's why he retreated with the knight on d3, created also a beautiful attack against the bishop on c5, but now Wesley So played queen to g6, and this was now a bad move. So he played so far the brilliant game. Wesley So played, I think, an immortal game so far, but queen to g6 is now his first mistake, because a better idea is to apply this rule to include all of your pieces into the attack, because when you play chess you cannot attack only with your pieces that you have so far a good activity. You have to include all of your pieces into the attack, and I think if Wesley would have played here the move rook from a to d8, I'm not seeing any defense anymore against this beautiful attacking formation of blacks, because look at this. This bishop is very dangerous on this diagonal. This bishop is already so dangerous here. The knight is heading to f4. Look at this, attacking the knight on d3. The rook is lined up against the queen. This rook is active. The queen is on f6. So this would be a monstrous attacking formation by Wesley. So unfortunately, for the beauty of the game, he didn't play rook from a to d8. But let's see now the possible continuation. Again, you cannot take here the bishop on h3 because you get knight to f4, as we said, and you lose the knight on d3. You can maybe just prolong the game, but we'll simply take out the queen, and this should be winning, I think, here for black. So let's see possible different continuations here for white. After move rook from a to d8, you could maybe play knight to d4. This would be, I think, the only defensive move here for white to lock somehow this aggressive attack by the rook on the d file, but still black should be much better. Now it would be time to play the move queen to g6, keeping here the tension on the g file. Now the only defensive move would be probably the move queen to f3, but look at this. Now we just continue the pressure, bishop to g4. You have to now play a weird move queen to e3, getting in front of in front of the bishop. Now black should simply step back with the bishop on, and still has an attacking formation from hell, I think, because look at this. Both rooks again are very active, the bishop very active here, the bishop is very active here, the knight is coming into the game, the queen is active on the g file. So I would really not love to play now this game anymore from white's perspective. So unfortunately, as was said, rook from a to d8 was not the move that Wesley played. He played queen to g6. Still, black is much better, nothing wrong, but I think with rook to d8 white is getting destroyed for sure. But now after move knight to h4 that Alireza played, we have now queen to g5, continue the pressure. Now from knight to c5 we have now queen to h4, and again an unnecessary move by Wesley. So again he should have maybe played rook from a to d8. Now the queen has to go into the defense, the queen has to be included into the defense, and now we play bishop to g4 against the queen has to play to e3, and now we play queen to h4. Again, black is much better because again of this beautiful activity, but it's not so complicated, I think, now anymore for white to defend this position. At least white can maybe play c4, include the bishop into the game. So this is not the same position, but I think again black should be better. Again, Wesley missed, unfortunately, this move rook from a to d8. But okay, after move queen to h4 that Wesley played, we have now g takes h3, and now comes again a new critical moment, I think, of the game. Again, Wesley missed the opportunity to destroy, I think, Alireza in an early stage of the game, because again he should have just included more attackers into the game. Okay, here Wesley played queen to g5 and took now the knight, which is also a drawish line. It's not the point that black is losing the game because Wesley played now the move queen to g5, but the better move was rook to e5, including just the new attacker into the game, and there is now this huge threat of rook to g5, and there is not so many there are not so many things that you can do against this attack. Let's see possible maybe queen to f3 move that you can play. Then we simply take out the rook, and now the rook will come, of course, to g5. Still, it's a huge threat here for black. Black is, I think, much better in this particular position. So after move knight to d3, if you just maybe step back from the attack of the rook, then of course you get here rook to g5. You have to play some moves like king to f1, but now with queen to h3, look at this other rook will come into the game. So here it's a losing game, I think, here for white. So let's see, you could maybe play bishop to c1 instead of this knight to d3 move. You can maybe prevent your opponent here to play this annoying check on g5, but again, black will simply take out the knight. We'll still have here some ideas of maybe knight to f4 is very interesting. Then if you take queen to f4 and again rook to g5 should be much better here for black. So unfortunately, again, Wesley missed this brilliant move rook to e5. He played queen to g5. We have queen to g4 by Alireza Firouzja. Now we have queen to c5 and now c4 by Alireza. Alireza, I think, got away with murder in this game because so many chances Wesley saw, I think, to win the game, and now with the move c4, Alireza is getting the bishop into the game. He has a beautiful activity now with the queen, and now comes again a new critical moment of the game. Again, Wesley played a bad move. He played rook from a to b8. He finally included the rook into the game, but it's simply too slow now. A better move is just to force the trades of queens, queen to g5, hoping for a simplification. I think this should be again a drawish position after maybe queen to g5, h takes g5. The knight can at least step back. You can play also knight to f4. So with this, both rooks with the bishop against the knight, I think this should be a drawish position. But rook from a to b8 was played by Wesley, and now comes the move that's winning, I think, here for white. White played here, Alireza Firouzja played here a beautiful e5 move. And the problem is now, you see, the queen is disconnected from the defense of the knight. The knight is a little bit loose. There are only two chances how to make progress here. You can, of course, defend with g6, and you can play the move rook to b3. Rook to b3 is much more accurate when it comes to computer evaluations, but still, this should be much better for white. Rook to b3 is just prolonging the game, I think, a little bit here for black, because we can play bishop to d4. Now we can play queen to c4, and now with bishop to e3 the game is over, because the queens are now attacked. So you have to take out queen takes g4. But look at this now, after h takes g4, the knight is hanging and the knight is actually trapped. You have to play something like rook to e5. Now we take out the knight, and okay, white lost many pawns for the bishop, but I think in the near future we can take out many of these pawns, and with the bishop's activity we can take out the pawn on a5. We'll probably even create here a pass from the a file, so this should be winning. But okay, here instead of this move rook to b3, Wesley played the move g6, which is even much worse, because now Alireza played the correct move bishop to h3. The queen doesn't have good squares. The queen has to go now even to the queen side. The queen can be only placed here on b6 or a7. Wesley played queen to b6, and Alireza broke now the position with the move e6, and this is now destroying black's defense, and the game is basically over here for Wesley So. So we have now c5 trying to get somehow the queen into the defense. We have f takes e6 comes now with a check, king to f7, and now queen to d7. You cannot cover with the rook. You have to play some ideas of king to f8, but now Alireza plays here the game really like a machine. Queen to d5, now threatening bishop to c5. You have to make some kind of a reaction. King to g7, now bishop to c5, attacking now the queen. Here Wesley So tried the counter attack with knight to f6, but Alireza kept it really calm. Bishop to b6, knight takes d5, and after rook to e8, in this position Wesley So resigned. So what's the point? Why did he resign? Because okay, after rook to e8, the problem is now we can simply take out here this pawn, and now the knight has to step back. You have to play maybe knight to f4 or something, and we just grab another pawn, and three pawns like this with the support of the bishop, three passers with the support of the rook, cannot be stopped. So that's why Wesley So, as we said, after move rook to e8 in this position, he resigned. So what to say, really wild game. I'm not sure what happened. This was the perfect opening by Wesley So. He, I think, outplayed in so many ways Alireza in the Italian game. If he would have won the game, this would be, I think, the game for some chess books, because this was simply chess from another dimension. How Wesley played this Italian game, he tricked, I think, Alireza into some really deep lines of this Giuoco piano. Unfortunately, he made that unnecessary moves, unnecessary mistakes, inaccuracies. Alireza took over, found, and also good tactics, and as I said, with this win, Alireza is now taking the lead of the super event, so he has now really good chances maybe to win the whole thing. So really wild stuff. If you want to see more games of this beautiful tournament, check out my coverage so far with some other games played by Alireza, Wesley So, Fabiano Caruana, and many more. And if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and what to say, chess is the best, of course.